Welcome back to the third episode of Talking Smack. I'm Josh Scar. I'm here with Alex Lasden once again. Welcome back, Alex.
Why, thank you.
And we've got a lot of little news bits. We don't really have a theme. If there is going to be a theme, we'll reveal it a little later because I'm actually really proud of the theme. If again, it can so be called. So we're just going to hop right in. And the first thing that I want to talk about is Christine Boylan is set to adapt Painkiller Jane for a Jessica Chastain movie. The character Painkiller Jane was created by Jimmy Palmiotti and I already forgot his name. We just looked it up. The former Marvel exec, CEO, editor-in-chief, Joe Quesada. That's who it is. I got there. 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti created this character. Basically, she's kind of like RoboCop, but without a set origin. She is an undercover cop who infiltrates the mob. The mob sets her up to go take out a rival mobster. They have a bomb attached to her, essentially. And the bomb goes off, and she's resurrected somehow through mysterious means. They don't really have a set origin, but she now comes back with superpowers and a super healing factor, and she runs around in a bikini, and she's a vigilante now. It's interesting. It's a fairly typical independent comic book, very sexualized, very vulgar, very visceral. I know you don't have a lot of insight on the character, but I know you do like Jimmy Palmiotti and some of his work, and I know you like Amanda Connor, his wife. Mm-hmm. I think it's his wife.
Yeah, but they're married.
I'm pretty sure they're married. They just obviously, for entertainment value, they keep their names separate. Yeah, just like they're Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, not Ryan and Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, no. I don't have a whole lot of insight into it other than, it could be interesting. I heard there was a TV show that I vaguely remember an episode or two of going oh yeah, the Terminator from Terminator 3 is in this. This is awesome. And then I realized it was on Sci-Fi in 2008 and went, never mind, this isn't awesome. The writer doesn't do a whole lot for me because she doesn't have, in my opinion, a whole lot of name recognition. She seems to have bounced around a bit. She did a few episodes of Constantine, a few episodes of Once Upon a Time. She was on Castle for a while in season 4, which may or may not have been a good season. Castle just kind of was Castle until it ended. Yeah,
Castle just kind of existed. I really only cared for the episodes where they did any kind of Firefly reference. If they did a Firefly reference, I was happy for the rest of the season.
No. Castle, in my opinion, was just a nice placeholder show. I enjoyed watching it. I saw basically every episode of it, but it was never a show where I was looking at reruns going, "Oh, this episode is more like, oh yeah, that was nice." So,
yeah.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, Castle was a very procedural show. It wasn't anything fantastic, but I'm all for anything Jessica Chastain does. I still need to see Interstellar, honestly. But I think she's a really good actress. I was actually kind of behind her maybe getting the role of Captain Marvel. I think she definitely has the vibrato of a Captain Marvel. She can definitely carry herself. She definitely can stand up to the likes of Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., Chris Pratt. I've never really seen her in a lighter, more lighthearted role, so I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, no, she just seems to be really good at selecting scripts lately. And I have yet to see a role where I would think that she was bad in the role versus that she seems to hold her own well, and she seems to elevate the material a bit. I still haven't seen a movie where I've looked at it and gone like, well, why did you do that? It was more like, oh, that was a smart choice, or that was strong for you. If she's going for a comic booky role, I am hoping that she's attached to it because she's looking to elevate it or have some kind of personal calling for her versus, it's about time I get paid.
Yeah, I need a franchise.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of what got Robert Downey Jr. into Iron Man, is he wanted a franchise, and look what he created an entire universe, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jessica Chastain, she's got a new movie coming out where she does a bunch of underground poker with Hollywood celebrities. It's based on a true story. It looks interesting. Michael Cera's in it, essentially playing Michael Cera. I would pay good money to see that movie if I found out he was playing Jesse Eisenberg.
Okay, so that was actually funny. thinking of it. It gets stupider and better the longer I think about that.
I saw the trailer. In all honesty, I heard the CinemaSins guys talking about it on their Sincast, and I was just hoping one of them would say that, because they're just like, oh yeah, I'm all for Michael Cera in this. And I'm just like, I really hope he plays Jesse Eisenberg. That would be amazing, because everyone gets them confused anyway. So like maybe he's just Jesse E. I don't know, but that would be pretty great.
Oh. Sorry, I'm still.
You're still recovering.
No, I'm still stuck on that. And then I realized that's a movie. Your movie you're talking about is Molly's Game. It's,
yes.
It's Aaron Sorkin, right? He's directing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Everyone loves Aaron Sorkin. Well,
sometimes.
Yeah. So anyway, the main reason we're talking about Painkiller Jane is because it leads to a nice segue of Jimmy Palmiotti helped create Painkiller Jane. He is now currently writing with Amanda Conner, the aforementioned Amanda Conner, Harley Quinn, who recently celebrated her 25th birthday, which obviously she's a made-up character, so she's not really celebrating 25 years. It's more fans are celebrating 25 years of Harley. I spent, actually last night, watching The Adventures of Batman and Robin, otherwise known as Season 4 of Batman the Animated Series, and I got to the episode where Harley is declared sane by Arkham, and she goes out and just is like trying to live a normal life, but she's rolling around on her roller skates being pulled by her hyena babies.
Oh yeah.
And she wants to go buy a dress because she realizes that her Daisy Dukes and crop top are a little outdated. So she goes into and actually buys this dress that I guess she really enjoys. She takes it before they can take the security tag off of it, so the alarms go off. And it's a setup. She just starts going crazy because she thinks everyone's trying to get at her. But everyone's being very clear, but she's just so paranoid about getting caught and having to go back to Arkham that she just won't stop and listen. Because even the security guard's like, I just need to get the tag off. And she's just like, it's a frame up. And she smacks him and runs into one of the dressing rooms to hide. And then Bruce Wayne ends up going into the dressing room area. And he's like, ma'am, are you okay? And she pops out with in her full Harley Quinn gear, and she's just like, back off, buddy, I'm armed, and she whacks him with a mannequin arm. It's just great, and it's classic. Oh, who's the voice actor? Arlene Sorkin, is that her name? Yeah,
Arlene Sorkin.
So many Sorkins all of a sudden. Yeah, Arlene Sorkin she shines in that episode, and there's some great one-liners. It's a great moment too at the very end where Batman brings her the dress that she bought when she's getting readmitted to Arkham. She's all depressed. Batman gives her the dress that she had bought. He says to her, everyone has a bad day. I had a bad day once. And she looks at him, lays a good kiss on him, and she says, nice guys like you don't deserve a bad day. And then she realizes that the kiss was actually pretty good, so she lays a big one on him. And that's kind of how the episode ends. But it's a great little episode. I forget the name of it, but it's in Season 4 of Batman. I mean, you might as well just binge the entire thing because the entire show is great. 25 years of Harley Quinn makes me feel really old.
No, I feel tremendously old suddenly. Because I remember watching that. I remember watching that when it was on first run, going through. It was part of my Saturday mornings, and then kind of got confused as to why it changes. Superman was around. I'm like, I'll stick through this. And then I did not give Batman Beyond a proper chance, probably because I was in high school at that time.
Mistake made.
Oh, I've made up for that.
Mistakes were made in that decision.
I have the entire DVD set of it now. Actually, it was my wife who told me, he's like, no, you have to watch this. This is super good. And she pointed out one of her favorite episodes was the one where I forget what they're called, but it's basically the Harley Quinn stand-ins are twins, these clown twins or Joker's crew, I forget what they're called, are arrested, and then they get, for some reason, the show stays with them, and they get bailed out of jail, and there's this older woman with them, and then she just starts whacking on them with her cane, and just yelling at them and saying all these mean things to them about how dare they, their disappointments to her, and then one of them out of nowhere goes like, stop being mean, Aunt Harley. And I'm like, holy crud, that's Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn's still alive. This is fantastic. And that was supposed to be years in the future. Joker had passed away, and I'm still reading the comic books that Amanda Conner has just been doing a great role. I mean, doing a great run at it. I, of course, am a fan of her artwork. I just wish she would draw the actual comics versus just the covers. It's a minor issue, but she really has, I think she's carried the legacy forward. And I wish they would have taken more inspiration from her with the Suicide Squad version of Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right now, 25 years on, she's in pretty good hands with Amanda Conner continuing the comic book role, and hopefully she's in good hands with DC's next decisions, whatever the heck they're doing with their comic book universe.
As far as their movie universe, I'm not a fan. Margot Robbie, I think she was an amazing Harleen Quinzel. She looked great when she was not in the white makeup with the tattoos and the fishnets. I did appreciate the little quick glimpse we get of her in the Deanie costume.
Yes.
But it just looks weird, which anything outside of the animated or comic universe that Harley Quinn outfit does look a little ridiculous, which is why I understand they didn't bring it in. But you have other references that you can do as well.
I'm not necessarily a fan of just that movie in particular, or the two interpretations of where they went with character design for the Joker or Harley Quinn. I didn't especially like that if you're going to interpret that character who came from an animated series and has a very distinct voice, that accent suddenly disappears, randomly comes back, kind of disappears, goes away completely, and is completely forgotten. And then the version of it with, I guess, was supposed to be a new 52-ish outfit, but like I said, I think it's in really good hands right now with the animated series. There's going to be isn't there a new Batman coming out soon? I swear there's a new Batman series.
TV show or comic?
Sorry, TV show coming out soon.
Oh geez, I know there's a new Justice League. I think it's Justice League Action, which is being produced and largely influenced by Paul Dini, or is it?
Because I swear Kevin Conroy.
It's either Paul Dini or Bruce Timm. But Justice League Action is getting a lot of really good reviews. It's a lot more lighthearted than a lot of the more recent DC stuff. The animation kind of bugs me. I haven't really given it a fair shake if she's involved with that, but there's always some Batman thing in the works at DC.
Yeah, I swear I remember Kevin Conroy saying that he was coming back to voice Batman as something.
He's the Batman in Justice League Action.
Oh, okay. I just assume, whenever I hear Kevin Conroy announce, "Oh, I'm back as Batman," I immediately lump everybody in. Like, oh, good, Mark's back, Harley's back, Tara Strong's gonna voice her. It's gonna be fantastic. We're in good hands.
Harley's had a lot of different interpretations. The comic book run right now is a lot of fun. I do tend to get a little distracted and annoyed when they put her, not necessarily because they put her in a bikini, but because they've given her the bleach skin treatment, which is part of what they did in Suicide Squad, where they gave her the new 52 origin, where the Joker dumps her in the vat. And I personally I don't like that origin just because Joker wouldn't want anyone to be like him. I get in the movie he was basically trying to kill her. Yeah. I don't necessarily remember if that was the case in the new 52 origin. It bothers me. She doesn't need to be bleached white. I get that it's to make her stand out more instead of just being a Caucasian blonde woman.
Yeah, but her blonde hair is still there, which I find weird. Yeah.
Well, the blonde hair looks better than the black and red that they had started off with. I mean, that's one good thing that the movie came out with, is they gave her the blonde hair with the pigtail tips. Yeah. Other than which, I mean, they kind of stole from the Arkham games anyway.
Amanda Connor's run has been really solid. I haven't really come across anything that I've particularly hated. She has a very good interpretation of keeping the character just slightly insane while also whimsical. But then there's really great moments of sincerity. I really love what she does with that, what she has done with that crew, her Coney Island crew of people she's built up around herself, giving her own life. I really, really love her relationship with Poison Ivy, that they overtly, suggest that they're together, but then they also have this fascination with angering each other and breaking apart. And then, of course, the Joker appears now and then to do his mayhem. So, I'm just really a fan of the comic books at this time, and hopefully that trend continues. As far as I know, Amanda Conner hasn't announced an end run for herself, so
I don't think DC's going to let either Amanda Conner or Jimmy Palmiotti out of that contract until the book starts slowing down. But yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, there's a lot of sincerity and heart, and it does ring true to some of the Batman the Animated Series stuff, like what I was talking about with the episode that I had just watched last night. Probably one of the more funny moments that just made me giggle and roll my eyes very early on in the new 52 run, which has bled over into the Rebirth run. Ivy shows up for the first time in Harley's new apartment. I think she's living in Queens now. She's somewhere in New York. She got a loft, or she's in charge of an apartment building for some reason. And for whatever reason, she has this rotting dead beaver as a sidekick now, and it talks to her. And it's basically her subconscious just kind of projecting onto her, and it's just trying to get her to do smart things occasionally. And it says, I'm the only one that can hear you, right? And you're the only one that can hear me. And she's just, shut up. And then Ivy shows up out of nowhere, and she jumps on her, gives her a big hug, and Harley just blurts out, "You want to see my beaver?" And Ivy's just like, "Yeah." And then she throws this rotting beaver in her face, and that's what you meant. It's not necessarily nuance.
No.
It's fun, and I don't mind that kind of humor. It's something that I talked about last week, and it's something that we'll get into further on down the line when I need a filler episode. But DC really, really just loves their sex, and sometimes it bothers me when it's too overt. But that one made me chuckle, so I can't be too mad about that. But again, Harley's 25. That's crazy. She made her debut in Batman the Animated Series. She was supposed to be a one-off character, and then they just loved her so much. And she was actually inspired by Arlene Sorkin on, was it Days of Our Lives?
I believe it's Days of Our Lives, yeah.
It's a soap opera. They're all the same, essentially. Some have vampires, some don't. But yeah, Arlene Sorkin was on a soap opera, and that kind of inspired Paul Dini and Bruce Timm to create this character, and they couldn't figure out who to get the voice, and they're like, well, why not get the inspiration herself? And Arlene Sorkin was just like, sure, let's do it. And the rest is history.
Yeah, because I forget what exactly Paul Dini said. I think he said he was home with a fever, and it was a rerun of Days of Our Lives where, for some reason, of course, they're having a fantasy episode, and Arlene Sorkin rolls out on heels in a jester outfit, and she's instructed to amuse the king and queen, and starts doing bad puns and squeaking a little honk toy and spinning around, and ends up mooning them and smacking her butt, and then that's kind of how that part of the episode ends. And Paul Dini went, "That's perfect."
Why am I not surprised?
And they're really good friends. So
yeah, she's one of the people I really wish we could meet. My wife found a copy of Harley Quinn #1 from the original comic book run that started, I believe, in 1998 or 1999. And she got Tara Strong to sign it because Tara was at that same convention where we found that issue. But it would be great if we could get the original Harley voice on that sheet as well to sign. Arlene Sorkin, to me, will always be the voice of Harley. Tara Strong does a really good emulation of it, but she's a little squeaky at times.
Yeah, her voice fluctuates slightly, from moment to moment, which is kind of okay.
It's not taking away from what she does. She does an
fantastic.
Amazing job. She has a lot of fun with it. I've seen her do the voice live. I've talked to her about it, not one-on-one, but right. I was in a Q&A and I asked her about it. And she just talked about how it was just such a great role to take over. And she wanted to do the role justice, while being an artist, you want to make it a little bit your own. Mm-hmm. So she just added her own little Tara inflections into it, and it works. I mean, most people wouldn't even know that they went from Arlene in Arkham Asylum to Tara in Arkham City, and then Arkham Knight.
Well, I noticed.
most people, not people like us that know these things. All right. Well, happy birthday, Harley, and we love you. And no matter what some of the fanboys say, you're great. People are annoyed by her voice. Whatever. You might as well be annoyed by New Yorkers.
No, I mean, to me, if you're going to be annoyed by her voice, then you might as well be annoyed by. I mean, that's a character trait. That's her accent. That's her voice. That's what exudes forth from the animated series. And they try to kind of. I mean, you can't read a comic book without hearing that voice running through your head if you've heard it once. It's just like if you're flipping through a comic book and you see the Joker's ha 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 ha's, someone's Joker voice is going ha 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 in your head. So get over it.
Yeah, which for me it's undoubtedly Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah.
I grew up on Jack Nicholson before I saw the animated series. Most people did, and yeah, even Jack Nicholson had more of a he.
Oh yeah.
Which again, it wasn't as maniacal in my opinion. But yeah, again, happy birthday, Harley. We love you. Tara, if somehow you're actually listening to this, we love you too. And same to you, Arlene. So I'm going to switch things up a little bit on you just because I think it makes a better transition.
That's fine.
We're going to start talking about the Orville first, just because I don't think people are necessarily watching this right now, or maybe not talking about it as much. I know Seth MacFarlane did tweet out that he is very grateful for the love that the show is apparently getting. It's got a 90% fan rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
And it's got a 23% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
That makes more sense.
So there's obviously a discrepancy there. I enjoyed the show. I watched the pilot. Obviously, as the time of this recording, the second episode hasn't appeared yet, so we don't know exactly what we're getting. But the first episode was quaint, I guess would be the word I use.
I really, really like the show, and I'm going to keep watching it until either it goes in a weird direction I'm not comfortable with, or until Fox cancels it because, it's sci-fi and Fox, therefore it's 13 episodes canceled and fans are outraged. What we got, I actually was really happy with. It was less Family Guy-esque or Ted or A Million Ways to Die in the West humor. There were some McFarlaneisms in which, random topical-ish kind of jokes that don't quite make sense 400 years in the future. The reason why I was sold on the show was how they resolved the conflict at the end. That sold me that we're going to actually get something that is a little more sincere, a little more smart, and is an ode to solving things the Star Trek way versus with violence or whoever the heck we're going to get with Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek 4 whenever they filmed that one of New Star Trek.
Like you said, I love the sincerity. It's got a good heart. They had plenty of opportunities to go gross, and they really kind of skipped over it. I mean, you could say that there was a gross moment early on when it's the first thing you see, so I'm not going to really spoil anything. But you find Seth MacFarlane's wife, Adrienne Padalecki. I can't remember. I think it's Palecki. I think it's Palecki. Padalecki, I think, is Jared from Gilmore Girls and... Sammy's gonna kill me.
Not Folklore. Dang it.
Supernatural, that's what it is. Yeah, Jared Padalecki, I believe, is Supernatural and Gilmore Girls, and then Adrienne Palecki is Mockingbird from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well as the failed Wonder Woman TV show. She plays Seth MacFarlane's now ex-wife because he caught her in bed with a blue guy who apparently
gets nervous and explodes blue ink.
either that or he
explodes blue ink.
Yes, in an intimate fashion, and so they end up getting divorced because of this. He's been in a funk for a year, and then all of a sudden he gets a call from his superior. He gets a ship, a small little freighter called the Orville, and he's back on board. He's ready to go, and he's just ready to just start working. And he ends up getting his ex-wife as his new XO. But there's some nice little character things in there. Before we find out that his ex-wife is his XO, which that's a tongue twister there. He brings on his buddy. I forget his name, but his buddy's a drunk. When they bring him onto the Orville for the first time, he's like, I want to make a good impression, so I'm having a drink. And really, right now, is this the best time? Yeah, I want to make a good impression. I don't want to be nervous. And then his co-pilot or his gunner is a guy who politely raises his hand. He says, yeah, the last captain let me have soda on the bridge. Is that okay? And Seth just goes, yeah, I mean, as long as you don't spill it on the dash, that's fine. And it's just really like subtle family comedy. Yeah. It worked for me just because, again, it felt like Star Trek, but with the average Joe as the crew, not these like officers who were trained in diplomacy. They're just guys.
Yeah, it worked for me because his friend who's taken over the pilot has his own issues. The other guy just seems to kind of the co-pilot guy just seems to kind of want to just ride it out like, okay, we have another new pilot. I'm not losing anything, right? Yeah, that's fine.
Got my soda, I'm good.
Yeah, we got a soda. We have there was the security officer who's this little waif of a girl who they get around that by saying that she's from a very, very high density gravity planet, so she's incredibly strong. It's like, okay, that's a Star Trek explanation. You know, that's perfect. That works. And then I forget what the big alien guy is.
He's basically a Klingon. Yeah, I forget. But there's one joke where apparently his species only urinates once a year.
Yeah.
And Seth MacFarlane just goes, man, I'm up like 4 times a night. That'd be great. And
how unfortunate.
My follow-up question to that would be, how long do you go for if you hold it in for a year? I feel like that would have been a good question to ask.
That's actually a good question.
Like, do they just go for an entire day? They just need a day off so they can empty their bladder?
That's weird.
And then we find out through the trailer at the end of the episode for the upcoming season that apparently they lay eggs as well. Or his species lays eggs. So, and Seth MacFarlane, for a space captain, he doesn't know a lot about the species on his crew. You guys lay eggs? So it's interesting, and I'm definitely willing to give it a shot and see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see where this goes because space is a passion project for Seth MacFarlane. He was the one who helped bring back the Cosmos specials that ran a few years back. He actually was in 1 or 2 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise because he was just such a fan of the show, and he somehow talked his way onto it.
He was in an episode of Gilmore Girls, too. So.
Was he?
Yeah. Lorelai's graduation from community college. He plays one of the guys that's just constantly bashing on the rich people that decided to show up, who are Lorelai's parents.
Okay, I'm going to actually have to watch that episode. And so I read an interview about why he wanted this show, and he said that right now we have so much dystopian fare, and there just seems to be so much of an intrigue in being upset about the future that he wants to have something that's fun about the future and brings a bit of liveliness to it. About, hey, we're gonna eventually end up in the right direction. So I'm hoping we can continue that with this show. As long as he's able to rein himself in a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want it to dive into the Family Guy humor. Like, you can have a crude joke here and there. I appreciated the moment where he's running to his room, essentially, or his office, because he just found out that his ex-wife is going to be his new XO, and he ends up like running through this sludge person.
Oh, yeah.
And he like divides the guy into like 3 parts because 2 legs and 1 thing equals 3 slices. And he just like slows down. He's like, "Hey, whoa, man, you okay?" And the guy's like slowly re-solidifying. He's like, "Yeah, I'm cool. It's fine." "All right, cool. Thanks." Is nice to not have something, because I mean, you could have easily had a poop joke there or something where he steps in and he's like, "Oh man,"
Yeah, or just show like a random stand like, "Oh, he'll reveal to himself" or something like that. No, he actually seems to be caring about his job and where they're going, and doesn't want his personal life necessarily to interfere, other than a lot of random slights during the course of the show.
Yeah. I really appreciate, like you said, again, the sincerity of it. It has a little bit of heart. There's some cliches, and again, it's not doing anything new, but it's different enough from other things that are on TV right now. And again, it's going to draw comparisons to whatever happens with Star Trek Discovery, who has, I don't know if they extended their not allowing someone to open up a review embargo. That's the word.
They put their review.
Yeah, they have the review embargo that reviews cannot be posted until the day the show airs, or the day the show releases, which is usually not a good thing when a studio is this loud about it. Usually they'll just be like, "Hey, this is the embargo date," like Star Wars does it. Mm-hmm. I think Star Wars did it. No, they didn't do that actually. I think they allowed a few to be released early. I forget exactly, but I'm pretty sure Star Wars did not have an embargo. I think it was allowed to open up a couple days early, but they probably saw most of the reviews were pretty glowing, so they were like, "Oh yeah, go ahead. We'll just get a little bit more money this way."
Yeah, the embargo thing for Star Trek Discovery is weird. I haven't been a fan necessarily of a lot of the artwork. I mean, not artwork. A lot of the previews and a lot of the posts of the photography. It looks a little kind of weird. And I'm not necessarily a fan of them claiming they're within strict continuity of the original series, Next Generation timeline, but everything looks like it's from the new Trek timeline. But they claim that, since we're 10 years in the past, we're perfectly fine. So I don't know. But there's no reviews out, and I think it's 2.5 weeks away, 3 weeks away, something like that, because they're going to air it. They're going to put it on after some football game or something.
Overall, personally, I would say give Orville a shot. If you can watch the pilot somewhere on Hulu or something like that, I would say give the pilot a shot. If it's for you, see what goes on in episode 2. If you didn't care for it, I wasted an hour of your life, and I'm sorry. I'm probably wasting more of your time by you listening to this than the Orville is.
That's true.
So while we're on the subject of TV, and while Alex is here, because our first episode was all about Game of Thrones is shooting multiple endings to prevent spoilers and leaks, unlike what we had happen last year.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I just don't buy that it's going to work. I know they're going to do it, and I know that it's what they're aiming for, but we're going to know ahead of time that somebody's going to leak it. It's going to get out somewhere. There's a Reddit thread where they have, I forget what it's called, like the Free Company or something like that, based off one of the companies from the actual book series, and they have all these moles inside the production, and they had this season basically written up from all their moles, all the people snapping photos, all the inside people leaking stuff. They had the entire season, episode 1 through 7, completely figured out, changed, how it worked, how it flowed, everything beat for beat. And of course, everybody on Reddit were like, no, this is all wrong. This is terrible writing. Can't be how any of that happens. And then episode by episode, it followed exactly what they leaked. And everybody was then pointing out these threads from 9 months ago about how wrong everyone was. And like, I just don't see what the point of it is. What do they mean by endings? Is it the last 5 minutes? Is it the last episode?
People know this story, but no one knows the ending, right, except George R.R. Martin, G.B. Weiss, and the other guy. I forget his name.
It's David something, because it's the two Davids, isn't it?
Yeah. It's D.B. and David something. I don't know.
D&D.
Sure. And basically they're saying people have a good idea of what the ending is, so I assume that they're going to shoot a few different endings, maybe like a bleak ending, or at least they're going to leak a bleak ending script. They're going to have like a super happy ending where somehow John and Danny aren't aunt and nephew and they get married and have lots of babies that aren't dragons.
She was adopted the whole time.
And Tyrion gets a dragon too, just because. I feel like they're gonna do a couple of different things, especially when it comes to who ends up on the Iron Throne at the end. If it leaks that there's a democratic ending, I guarantee you that is the ending.
Yeah. Well, if they're going to shoot multiple endings to just mess with people, I'm really hoping one of the endings is an ending that sits slightly, maybe like 15, 20 years in the future down the road, and it's Tormund and Brienne, and they're walking, and she has like 5 kids, and one of them is like even taller than she is.
I would love that. I hope that's not even a fake ending. I hope that's like an actual ending. The White Walkers take over except for Tormund and Brienne. They have their own little children that they're gonna I Am Legend this thing.
Exactly.
And they become the new Whites.
That would be awesome.
I would give them lots of money to do that ending.
They better. I mean, if they're gonna shoot a bunch of fake endings to like fake scenes and mix stuff around, you gotta go big. Do something weird, Have Jon Snow riding an ice spider for some reason that makes no sense. Go out there and have Danny, just turn around and go, you know what, this is all your guys' problem, and retire to a beach. Danny becomes a faceless man for some reason. That
would probably be the most sensible decision she's made in the last like 3 seasons.
Here's a good one. Now this one I would like one of Sansa. Dang it, her sister suddenly escapes my name. Sansa and Arya. They're baking together, and for some reason, Arya is like randomly changing faces and doing accents while they're baking. So, Jakar shows up. He's like baking, like talking about his lovely scones.
Jack and Hagar.
Yeah. Littlefinger all of a sudden shows up and he's talking about how to make a proper mockingbird pie. Just go really
creepy
weird.
Little whisper.
Exactly.
The trick to doing a good mockingbird pie is you have to make sure you mock it very well beforehand.
Be fantastic. Go weird with it.
Just have everyone show up one last time except for Sean Bean.
No, you have to have him show up.
But they don't have his face.
Oh, that's right.
Unless she takes the face from the stone cut out of him, but they said that face obviously is not right. They probably can't afford Sean Bean's likeness. That's why it's slightly different. It's like the dollar store brand Sean Bean.
Anyway.
Yeah, Game of Thrones shooting multiple endings, not surprising. We'll see what they mean by endings, because if they're not shooting at least a dark ending and a light ending and the real ending and an in-between ending, everyone's going to be able to deduce what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're 2 years away anyway, and we'll get all the information through leaks and whatever else. It's like a Halo game at this point. The story's going to leak eventually. Moving on to movie news. We had our first image of Stranger Things actor David Harbour as Hellboy. It's a great Ron Perlman cosplay.
It looks fantastic, I gotta say. Ron Perlman is looking amazing for his age. I know he said he didn't want to come back, but he has come back, and it looks great. I'm glad we're getting this. I know Del Toro said he was busy, but apparently he's shooting it.
I mean, the only real difference I can tell is they let his hair down and they changed the look of the gauntlet. Like, it looks a little more straight edged, like just a regular cylinder hunk of brick. It almost looks metallic. Like it almost looks like a gauntlet of metal instead of like a brick or brimstone or whatever it's supposed to be.
That secondary picture that David Harbour released and then quickly got deleted, the one with the black and white one, with the trench coat, I think that looks a lot better than just the still release of him, being red against a red backdrop, which I looked at it and went...
With like a hard black outline on him.
Yeah. It
looks like a Fairly Odd Parents character.
I was like, okay, that looks like I expected it to. That doesn't excite me.
I honestly thought it was Ron Perlman. I think you shared that with me, and I was just like, okay, is this concept art of Ron Perlman? I don't know what this is.
But the black and white one with him in the trench coat looks
a lot better, and you get a better view of the gauntlet as well, or his right hand. It's not a gauntlet; it's his actual hand.
The only thing that didn't excite me about that was I believe they also released the release date, they announced the release date, which I believe is January 11th, 2019. January is traditionally a dumping ground of bad movies.
It's the Underworld time slot.
That's true.
gonna bank it on that Underworld crowd.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I think Hellboy 2 released in February, I want to say of 2008 or 9. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that was an early year release too.
I just still don't like the January release date because that's traditionally a get rid of it thing. I mean, yeah, I know Underworld and Resident Evil can make some money in that release date, but that doesn't necessarily inspire me that they're actually trying to put a good product out, as so much as that they're like, well, people should be tired of seeing some movie by now.
It was July 11th, 2008. So I was way off. I just remember that's actually the only Hellboy movie I've seen in its entirety.
It's a good one.
I wasn't overly impressed.
How dare you?
I don't know. Hellboy doesn't do anything for me. I would actually pay good money to see an Abe Sapien movie.
That would be a good movie.
I liked the character of Abe Sapien, and wasn't he played by
Doug Jones, isn't it?
Yeah. I liked the character a lot. I cared more for him than I did Hellboy. I mean, I know Hellboy is supposed to be literally a hothead, right. And I just didn't care. The concept of the Golden Army seemed kind of cliched to me even back then. I'm not a fan of Selma Blair. I didn't get it. And then you had the whole cliche of her being pregnant. Spoiler alert for a 10-year-old movie. It was fine. It had moments where I laughed, but again, and they didn't even try to hide the pregnancy thing outside of her trying to quote unquote find a good time to tell Hellboy, and it just it didn't really work for me overall.
Well, if you want to see a good Abe Sapien movie, may I suggest The Shape of Water?
I am very excited for that. And apparently it's getting some Oscar buzz, too. They just released a Red Band trailer that we shared on our Facebook page, which, nice plug there. Be sure to find us on Facebook. The Red Band trailer wasn't overtly Red Band. I think it was just kind of a way to let people know, hey, this is going to be an R-rated movie. And Guillermo del Toro shines in R-rated movies.
Yeah, the Red Band trailer, from what I remember seeing of it, I think there was maybe a little blood when Michael Sheen was beating a guy, and the lead actress, who is deaf, she started spelling out a bad word.
Yeah, she signs out asshole a couple of times, and then I think they drop one F-bomb.
Well, she started to write it the screen, and then Michael Sheen was like screaming, like, what is she spelling?
Michael Shannon.
Oh, my gosh, you're right. It's Michael Shannon. Sorry, Michael.
He's Zod.
Michael Shannon was like screaming, like, "What? What is she saying? What is she writing to me?" And her friend goes, "Thank you." After you'd seen the first 3 letters on the screen coming up, so it looks very interesting. Doug Jones is again providing the talents of the Fishman, and I am intrigued to see what this is going to be like.
I will only go see The Creature of the Black Lagoon if Doug Jones is the creature at this point. He seems to be typecast as the Fishman anyway, so even if the Dark Universe is not dead for some reason, that's who I want as the creature.
I mean, we have to keep him employed somehow.
And getting back to Hellboy, I mean, the costume can only look so many different ways. It's like Captain America or Iron Man. It's still going to look like the previous costumes. I mean, they tried to make Superman's costume look different by dulling the blue and getting rid of the red underwear, but I mean, it's still Superman.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do with it. It's a guy with a trench coat who walks around bare-chested, who kind of has shaved down horns and an arm. I mean, the non-ridiculous way to make it is basically the standard way that they're doing it. So we'll just see if it brings something different, which is they're promising us it's going to be R-rated. They're promising us it's going to be darker, that it's going to be more straight for the comics. All right, cool. Let's go with it.
Like I said, I'm not a huge Hellboy fan. I don't get the appeal to it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the trailers look like, and maybe they can do for January what Deadpool did for February. So we'll see. 2019 is a year and a half away, so
yep,
they got time. In other movie news, Drew Goddard of Cabin in the Woods fame, and he also not directed. That was Ridley Scott. He wrote the screenplay for The Martian. Drew Goddard is set to direct the X-Force movie, which for those of you that don't know what the X-Force is, they are basically the Black Ops of the X-Men. They take on the missions that require people to get a little bloody and get people a little dead. And I believe they have already confirmed that Deadpool will be a part of this team.
Yeah, Deadpool will be part of it.
My big question is who else will be part of the team? Are they building up Deadpool 2 to build up to X-Force? So is Domino going to be in it? Are they going to bring back Marina Baccarin? Because her character is supposed to eventually become a mutant as well.
Yeah, I believe she's supposed to become Copycat.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping that they actually keep that progression. I mean, there's a very natural way to explain how she gets powers. It's the same way he did. He was stuffed in an air tank. She was stuffed in an air tank. Mm-hmm. She was put in a very high-stress situation. He was put in a high-stress situation. So it'd be really fun to have her be back as Copycat and continue in that universe. That was one of the high points, in my opinion, of the Deadpool movie was she and Ryan Reynolds had a very strong, natural, functioning relationship. Dysfunctional, but a good relationship with the two of them. Drew Goddard, kind of waiting to see if he can impress me. I did like The Martian, but I'm not sure if that was just Matt Damon and Ridley Scott. I like Cabin in the Woods, but was that
Joss Whedon?
Yeah, thank you. Was that Josh Whedon? He was supposed to be doing the first season of Daredevil, but I believe they removed him after a few episodes.
Yeah, I think. I forget why he came off the project, but yeah, either he was removed or he left for reasons.
He has recently done The Good Place. I believe he directed the first episode or two, which I think that's an underwatched TV show and really like it. So,
yeah, Erica and I watched the pilot not too long ago. It was fine. It was fun. I want to watch more just to see what develops because it seemed very straightforward in the first couple of episodes.
I will say it's going to be a hard show to watch for some reason if you find it in syndication because it really is a continuity of episode to episode building the story, which I actually really liked. And there was a great, lovely spin on it that they're ruining in the promos for season 2 that happened at the end of season 1. I'm still a fan of it, and hopefully Drew Goddard can do well with his show, with the
with the movie.
With the movie. Dang it. Sorry, I'm thinking okay, he's done this TV show, he's done this TV show, he's done this TV show. He kind of did that.
You got too many apps open. You're running a little slow. Running out of RAM. Fox is doing okay with their X-Men movies right now. A lot of people really liked Logan. I felt Logan was a little overrated. I enjoyed the hell out of Deadpool, but it was a little colored by numbers as well. I'm all for a team-up movie of the R-rated fashion with superheroes as long as they get a good roster and a good cast together for it. And then in other movie news, John Wick Chapter 2 has been slated for May 19th, 2019.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, that's right. We just picked up Chapter 2 on Blu-ray. That's why I'm thinking about it. John Wick Chapter 3 is slated for May 19th, 2019. I'm excited. I think this is supposed to be the last movie. It's supposed to close out the trilogy.
From what I understand, that this is going to be the last one featuring Wick. The writer.
Well, I hope they don't have a John Wick with someone not named John Wick.
Well, they do have the spinoff going, The Continental, which is supposed to be a TV series, which is going to expand and explore the world of the Continentals throughout the world, which sounds like a very, very cool way of keeping that world intact without necessarily keeping Keanu Reeves around, because the Continental is probably my favorite world building device of the last few years, just because the first one, it keeps it kind of a mystery of like, okay, how do these coins work? What's going on with this? What is this? There's a society. And the second one, have you seen it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the second one expands upon that there's more than just one Continental, and there's what you can actually be buying with these coins, what you can secure with them, not necessarily how you earn them yet. There's different devices that they could use to explore that world, but not necessarily following around Keanu Reeves. And 2 sets up that, 3 is going to be one big bad showdown. Mm-hmm. And if it's a big bad showdown, let's hope it ends naturally with the close it out, because I don't want to see John Wick 4 in 2022.
Yeah, I think the biggest downside to it is, I mean, it's going to be released 2 years afterwards. So, I mean, that would be, I think it'd be 6 or 7 years between all 3 movies, which is a pretty good spacing.
Yeah, it's really good.
And, I mean, Keanu Reeves is pushing 60, so it needs to happen fairly soon. He's in his early 50s or mid 50s already?
Yeah, he should be in his early 50s right now. I believe he's 51 or 52 now. He's got to be. He's been around for a long time.
He's an ageless wonder. He and Paul Rudd, I swear. But yeah, I'm excited for the John Wick series. I like the world. It's fun. My biggest gripe against John Wick 2 is it felt like it was just a big setup for John Wick 3 after so long. Like, the movie kind of ended by the end of the second act, and then the third act was pretty much just setting up this ending that bleeds into John Wick 3.
I wasn't expecting it to end the way it did necessarily, but it does seem that once he has been betrayed and it's like, okay, I gotta fly somehow, get back to New York and murder a bunch more people. And then he finally, was like, okay, I gotta murder this one dude, that they really did it really is upon second viewing obvious that they're like, okay, we need to have some loose thread here. And this is the perfect loose thread in theory.
And that's not taking away anything. The car chase scene in the very beginning of the movie is amazing. Mm-hmm. The foot chase scene between John Wick and Common's character is awesome. That's some of the most like high tense hand-to-hand combat moments I've seen on screen in a while. Even Ruby Rose turns in an okay performance, which, I mean, it's not hard to do when you have no lines. She's just signing. I honestly don't get what the appeal is of Ruby Rose, like why Hollywood is trying to make her a thing. But I'm kind of glad her character... Did she die?
She's dead. I mean, she's got to be.
I know she did the Seeing You thing that she did from the first one again, but I can't remember if she actually died.
She was left with a knife in her heart that if she pulls out, she'll die.
I thought that was Common.
He did the same thing to her, though.
Well, that's not very impressive if they play the same card twice.
Wait,
I think she's got like a... I think she's just like got a leg broken or something. I can't remember.
Because he took her knife and forced it to jab into her. And she signed, "I'll see you," and he kind of went, "Yeah, right," and walked away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not remembering. I remember Common had something similar where maybe it was in the leg or something, and he's like, "You pull that out, you're going to bleed out before you can get to a hospital." Because Keanu didn't want to kill Common.
Right.
Common wanted to kill Keanu. Anyway, John Wick series is good. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Brief summation of that. But yeah, the reason John Wick 2 is moving to May 2019 is because that has been vacated by Star Wars, which has now moved to December 20th, 2019, because they brought back J.J. Abrams, which is something that we kind of predicted on this show. Rumors and scuttlebutt says that Rian Johnson turned down the offer to direct, largely because he spent the last 2.5 years of his life directing episode 8 and he needed a vacation. Disney kind of hedged their bets and went with the safe bet in JJ.
Yeah, I can understand the guy wanting a break, since he was writing episode 8 right as they were editing episode 7, because he had mentioned that he asked J.J. Abrams to change up some of the people that were flying to see Luke at the end, because J.J. Abrams originally wanted BB-8 to be aboard the Millennium Falcon, and Rian Johnson's like, no, I have this thing that I'm doing with R2, so make sure R2 is there instead, which makes a lot more sense for R2 to be there than
especially
BB-8.
when BB-8 belongs to Poe.
Yeah.
Like, why would BB-8 leave Poe to go with Rey?
No, yeah, that doesn't make sense. So, It makes sense that that he's, I think, still editing. I don't think they've announced that he's officially done working on episode 8 right now. He probably is putting some finishing touches, restructuring some stuff. I know that they had to, rumor is that they had to redo parts of 8 to compensate for the loss of Carrie Fisher, because 8 was setting up for episode 9 to be Carrie Fisher's movie, since the way they structured it was Harrison Ford is episode 7, Mark Hamill's episode 8, and Carrie Fisher will carry 9.
No pun intended.
I know they had to redo some rewrites. There were some rumors of reshooting, so I can understand him being burned out and not necessarily want to carry it forward. Doesn't necessarily leave us in the best of hands wondering what's going to go on with 9. Are we going Rian Johnson had mentioned once or twice before that he's leaving some questions to be answered in 9 that he kicked down the road. He's like, oh, there's questions in 7 that I'm not going to answer. I'm kicking that to 9. And will we get those answers? What's the script look like? Is there a script?
They've already confirmed that JJ is, I don't know if he's going back to a page 1 rewrite or if he's just redoing a treatment. But yeah, JJ is doing some script work with, completely blanking on the guy's name. He helped on 7 as well. He's a guy that kind of kept JJ in check with a few things. I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. So
is that Kasdan?
Lawrence Kasdan? I don't think it's Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
No, Lawrence Kasdan is currently working on the Han Solo picture. I'm going to look it up here really quick. But JJ is a safe pick. I know a lot of people are hoping that it gives him a chance to actually answer some questions compared to just asking them, because I know he is on record as saying that I don't have to answer who Rey's parents are. I don't have to answer who Snoke is. That can be for whoever does 8 and 9. Now he's doing 9. So what, in his head canon, what can he make literal canon?
I think J.J. Abrams will probably deliver us another solidish movie. I haven't necessarily been a fan of him ever, so I really can't be sitting over here and be like, oh, it's going to be great, guys. I just want, solid movies that hopefully impress me a bit. Because I remember the first time I saw Star Wars, I think I was like 12, because, I was not a 70s and 80s child. I know I saw them before they were special editions were re-released, and I was just blown away. I was just like, my cousin showed me A New Hope, and I was like, this is amazing. And then he's like, isn't it great? And then I don't know, a month or two later, he's like, they made a sequel. And I was like, oh my God, they made a sequel. And we watched it, and it was like, oh my God, I was so excited. And then out of nowhere, I casually said, I wonder if we ever see what Vader looks like. And he's like, oh, they made a third one. I'm like, what?
Chris Terrio is the guy who is helping write episode 9. He is largely credited for Argo. I believe he won a screen. Did he win a screenplay Oscar for that? I don't remember.
Argo did win screen, I believe.
Okay, and then he also has a writer credit, unfortunately, for Batman v Superman and Justice League. But I assume whatever he wrote was probably just completely glazed over by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder doesn't seem too concerned about script, so I assume that whatever he wrote was probably some of the better parts of it, because Argo is a great movie, in my opinion. Yeah, but I think episode 9 is in capable hands. I wouldn't say it's in great hands necessarily. I think it's largely up to Kathleen Kennedy, because I think she's kind of Kevin Feige in this situation, where she has a plan and she's getting these people in there just to kind of execute the plan. She'll greenlight the script, be like, good enough, or that's great, kind of like what the rumors that we're getting with Rian Johnson, where everything seems to be just going smoothly outside of losing Carrie Fisher.
Right.
Everything we're hearing, I mean, the guy was at Star Wars Celebration visiting with fans at 3 a.m., shaking hands individually and spending time with fans and just talking Star Wars. I'm slightly disappointed that he isn't doing episode 9, just because, again, it sounds like he has a really good grasp on what Kathleen Kennedy wants to do and what he wants to do, and it sounds like they're in pretty good sync. And everything we're hearing about episode 8 is it's arguably going to be one of the best, if not maybe the best, Star Wars movie since Empire.
Yeah, the only thing I'm really concerned about is that J.J. Abrams seemed to come in, swoop in, discard a bunch of stuff, write a movie, and disappear and be like, I'm out. But if Kathleen Kennedy, if what we're hearing about how she operates and how she wants to protect the integrity of the universe and protect the integrity of the movies so that they are a useful, cultural, relevant product still. I'm willing to see what she's going to produce, because as much as I was really annoyed that they sacked 2 directors like with 3 days of filming to go on the Han Solo movie, and especially annoyed that they picked milk toast Ron Howard, who I don't think has produced a good movie outside of Drive since like 2002. He seems to be having the time of his life. He's on Twitter every day posting pictures about, little teases of like, look what I shot today, guys.
I feel like that's PR, because usually Star Wars sets are very closed off, and I think that's a lot of PR where they're just trying to, here's a little hint as to what we're doing, like, because Lord and Miller would have been tweeting and doing all sorts of fun little Instagram posts if they had been given those kind of green lights. Yeah,
it probably is PR, but it does seem that he wants to be there versus, just a hired hand who shows up for a big paycheck.
Apparently, he is good friends with Lawrence Kasdan, so.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm willing to write it out. I mean, we have episode 8 coming in December. Then we have the Han Solo movie, which has yet to be pushed back from May, which I wouldn't be surprised if it does, because think they're still in reshoots.
Well, in the age of digital, I mean, all they have to do is send in the scene they shot. They can literally start post on that scene right then and there, and then editing is going to be the longest part after that. So, I mean, as long as they do that, they can print digital copies in a matter of hours and then ship them out.
Yeah.
So I think May still seems fairly realistic. I mean, Justice League, as far as we're aware, is actually still shooting. We haven't heard anything about them actually wrapping any of the quote unquote reshoots that they're doing, and they're still on pace for releasing in November.
Yeah, there was a quiet announcement that that Josh Whedon was going to be given co-writing credit on it because of how much extensive reshoots are. I don't think they've announced that he's getting co-director credit yet, and
I don't think they're going to give him a director credit. I think it's more as a favor to Zack Snyder, because allegedly they're still trying to keep with Zack Snyder's vision and his quote-unquote tone, but I feel like Joss Whedon is still going to add a little bit more story, and obviously he's adding more quips. The scene on the rooftop with Commissioner Gordon where the Flash is like, oh, they just disappeared. That's rude.
Yeah.
That's 100% Joss Whedon. I don't think Zack Snyder could come up with a joke like that in 100 years.
No, because he's such a very serious director. I mean, he's given us some great things. Like, no, don't get me wrong. I will defend Zack Snyder to the ends of the earth about some things. Like, I don't get why people don't like Watchmen. I honestly don't. I've read the comic book a few times before seeing the movie, and have the extended edition, and I truly believe it's incredibly underrated. I think he actually fixed a lot of the stuff that was wrong with the comic book that I was just flip back through and be like, yeah, this is a lot better.
I think one of the major criticisms, salute, to the Watchmen movie is the overplayed sex scene. It was in the comic, it was like 2 or 3 panels, where in the movie it's like 5 or 10 minutes long.
Not that long.
It feels that long because they're playing a really bad version of Hallelujah. And
it does feel long.
It just, that's what she said.
Oh, great.
If you take that scene out and you just allude to the fact that they had sex, or even like have them do the foreplay and then come back and they're snuggling on the bottom of the owl plane or whatever it is, you get the same effect. You don't need to see Malin Ackerman's boobs.
In defense of Zack Snyder, in the comic, it did end with the flamethrower being ejected through and being fired.
You could have done that too and still not had a 2 to 10 minute sex scene in this overlong movie.
It's true. Actually, that scene actually it makes me laugh more than anything. Every time it comes on, I just start laughing, which I'm not sure if that was the intention or not, but I actually really like that movie. Have you seen his that CGI owl movie he did?
Mm-mm.
It's from a children's book called Owls or something like that. Give that a watch. It's actually, I don't know why in his directing catalog he has this children's movie about owls.
Yeah, the Guardians of Ga'Hoole.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, have you seen it?
Yeah, Legend of the Guardians Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I mean, I remember it being advertised as like this big epic. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Isn't Elijah Wood one of the owls?
Probably. I don't remember. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times. I'm terrible with voice actors.
Elijah Wood's not a voice actor. He's Frodo.
Well, it's true. He's also Dirk Gently's sidekick now. But I watched it just on a whim of why would Zack Snyder direct this? And then I was touched. I was like, this is actually a really good movie. Why isn't he directing more CGI owls?
Couldn't tell you. I remember getting a really big Secret of Nim vibe from that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we got way off topic there.
Sorry.
Somehow we moved to Zack Snyder when talking about J.J. Abrams. So yeah, J.J. Abrams, safe pick for Star Wars Episode 9. He'll have a chance in some people's minds, I know yours especially, where he'll have a chance to redeem himself for Episode 7. I still maintain Episode 7 is a good Star Wars movie. It's right there after Empire and A New Hope, and you can mix and match Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, and Revenge of the Sith however you like. To me, they're all 3 ABC. They're not as good as the first two, and obviously they're nowhere near as good, or they're way better than Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
I do have a question about if we're going to rank the Star Wars movies. Do we count Clone Wars as a Star Wars movie?
No.
It was released in theaters, though.
I don't care.
All right. Okay, then I can rank The Force Awakens above something.
That's just awful. Yeah, no, the Clone Wars movie, if they had released that as a TV pilot, which they kind of technically did because it was a launching point for the TV show, I'm pretty sure if it was on anything other than, if it was called anything other than Star Wars, that show would have been canceled.
Oh, yeah. That first season was really rough. Second season was really good.
The voice acting was really rough too. Like they tried way too hard to emulate just the monotone of all the voice actors. Even in Ahsoka, who's supposed to be this little spitfire of I forget what her species is.
Twi'lek?
No, she's not a Twi'lek. Twi'leks are the ones with the tendrils, the two tendrils coming out of the back of their head. I forget what her species is called, but she's supposed to be just this little spitfire burst of energy, and she's just like, "Hey, Sky Guy."
God.
Oh my God, shut up, little child. And then she goes off and becomes one of the best characters in Star Wars lore.
If we can't choose that, then, well, the first season of Clone Wars was rough. The second season was really good. The third season was really good.
I think they went 4 seasons before it got canceled.
Where's that? Is that the fourth season? And then there was the fifth season, which was that half season that they released on Netflix that was cobbled together storyboards or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but personally, I love Ahsoka, just not season 1 Ahsoka.
No.
Once you get to season 2 through what she's been in Star Wars Rebels, spoiler alert, Ahsoka becomes one of the best characters in Star Wars. And she also grows up very quickly and becomes a very different kind of character. So, yeah, J.J. Abrams, okay choice, not the best, but they start filming in January, or they're supposed to start pre-production in January.
Right.
So they really couldn't branch out and try and steal Patty Jenkins. Personally, I was if I had an outside the box hope, it was either going to be Matthew Vaughn, who is doing the Kingsman movies and also did X-Men First Class, or if she was willing to do it, Catherine Bigelow. I'd be really interested to see how she would portray a Star Wars movie. She's always been about these super realistic military movies more recently, and just these grounded stories. You got this great look on your face.
Well, I'm trying to picture Catherine Bigelow doing episode 9. I can't help but picture the entire movie would be, it'd have to be NC-17 with her directing style, because I'm just picturing, assuming Luke's alive, Luke battling whatever Sith and stormtroopers are out there, and some reason there's a race allegory going on. Something's exploding. There's actual blood and dismemberment. And
the droids are the race allegory.
Yeah.
Freedom for droids.
And I'm just picturing it's all filmed in slightly muted colors with a lot of blood and gore and cursing. We would get Luke to, however, reply to say the line I really would like to see as an outtake. Do you remember his line from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
No, I haven't seen that movie in years, which they're apparently working on a sequel for that one, but continue with the line.
Well, he gets ticked off, and when they break out the saber bongs, and he force pushes Silent Bob into a wall, and it looks at the camera and goes, don't fuck with the Jedi Master, son.
That's right.
Bleep out my curse word.
We have an explicit rating on iTunes. We're fine.
Really would like to see that as an outtake.
Yeah, too bad Disney would never let that get out.
I don't know. Yeah, I can actually see that happening. And in one point with Catherine Bigelow directing, I would be really intrigued. Like, that would be fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. That would get butts and seats. Like,
because you would see some amazing action and a lot of political overtones, which would be fascinating. You know, it'd be like what we should have gotten with Attack of the Clones that we didn't.
George Lucas was just too concerned with world building in those movies.
But if you could actually picture Catherine Bigelow directing episode 2 and 3, the politics would be a lot more interesting.
Oh yeah. And the lightsaber duels at the end would be a lot more visceral.
Mm-hmm. Lots of death. Lots of
explosions. Well, I mean, Jango Fett did get decapitated.
I am still upset that what my friend told me about that is not true. I remember I didn't see it the first weekend because I was really weirded. Wasn't really that interested in it, and I remember like the whole Huda Man, Yoda Man trailers that started after the first weekend came out of like Yoda spinning and showing all
I remember
stuff.
laughing in the theaters in that fight scene.
But my friend assured me that if I went and saw the movie, because I didn't want to, that there's a scene where Boba Fett where Jango Fett and Boba Fett are there. I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. He's like, yeah, unfortunately Jango Fett gets killed. I'm like, oh, well that sucks. He's like, yeah, well Boba Fett's young at this point, and he goes over and picks up the helmet. He's like, and when he picks up the helmet to Morin, the head falls out.
I don't remember that.
It didn't happen.
Okay,
he lied to me. I'm like, oh really? That's screwed up. Oh yeah, I guess I'll go see it.
Well, your friend's mean.
My friend's a jerk. Yeah. He also assured me there's a scene where Boba Fett is leaving, dragging his dad's corpse behind him, and he kills like three clone troopers as he leaves and takes the slave one and flies off. My friend's a liar.
Your friend's a dick. Yeah, I mean those movies, at least Attack of the Clones, did nothing to solidify the fan theory that Boba Fett's a badass. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Boba Fett's super overrated. You can unsubscribe right now if you love Boba Fett. I'll bash him at every opportunity. Hashtag Boba Fett overrated.
Well, he gets a little bit better in the Clone Wars.
He's a whiny little teenager. I don't want to do it.
I said a little bit better.
How is that better?
I don't know. He sucked.
Thank you.
They took what was a possibly intriguing character, which I do like.
How is he intriguing? He literally stands there. Okay. I mean, the history that is built afterward of the Mandalorians is fine, but Jango Fett is actually not a Mandalorian.
No, he's not.
He was born on, I think, one of the moons or one of their territories.
I don't know.
He just has the armor. I think the story, the backstory is he killed a Mandalorian and took it.
Okay, I'm just going off of what we got pre-special editions of 4 and 5. Of 5 and 6. This is why This is my brief defense, because I do admit the majority of what I like about Boba Fett comes from the Bounty Hunter trilogy. Was it Slave One, the Mandalorian Armor, and something else? Those books, of course, are no longer canon. But in Episode 5, Vader has to specifically call him out and tell him no disintegrations. He points this out to him specifically. And then he's the only one who talks back to Vader, where he's just like, he's no use to me dead. And Vader's like, I'll make it up to you or whatever. That's interesting. He then screams and gets hit. He then tries to fight Luke and then screams and dies like a bitch.
Have you heard the fan theory that Boba Fett was the one that eviscerated Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru? That is why they're skeletons, because, again, stormtroopers only have blasters. How are they able to, quote-unquote, eviscerate? And that's why Vader, singles him out, is because he tells him, hey, go find Luke. I know where he might be. And obviously Owen and Beru are like, we don't know. He went to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. And then Boba Fett just eviscerated them because they were no use to him.
That is a much cooler fan theory for him. It's a lot better than what we got with the special edition, where he randomly walks on screen, nods at the camera, and keeps walking.
Because, I mean, they do through the special edition, they do verify that he is on Tatooine. So
yeah, he's on Tatooine watching Han step on...
really awkwardly step on Jabba's tail.
Step on Jabba's tail for some reason.
Yeah.
With really bad CGI of making him bounce up through the frame and back down.
Yeah. Kind of transitioning with more director news. This is a very director news heavy episode. Patty Jenkins officially signed on the dotted line to direct Wonder Woman 2, which had previously been slated to open on December 13th, which if that date sounds vaguely familiar, it's because Star Wars moved to December 20th of 2019. And so now these movies currently have a Batman v Superman, Captain America Winter Soldier face-off going on right now. I think it was it Winter? No, it was Civil War.
No, it was Winter Soldier.
Was it Winter Soldier?
Yeah, because Civil War was last year and... Wait. It has to be Batman versus Superman. Civil War was this year. No.
One was Batman v Superman. Civil War was last year. Yeah, it was last year's. Civil War and Batman v Superman is both face-off movies. So the face-off movies were facing off against each other.
There we go.
Now we have Wonder Woman 2 going almost head-to-head with Star Wars. And I will bet good money. If Vegas has a betting line, I will put whatever I have in my savings account, which isn't much, on Wonder Woman moving either to March 2020 or April 2020. I don't think they're going to push it that much further back, but I don't think they're going to stick around to lose all that money to Star Wars a week later.
No, I think if anything, well, my opinion is I think they'll move up some, try to move towards November or October, because I don't think in 2019 is in November. I think is tentatively is where Bond 25 is sitting. And I think that's really the only thing sitting around there. I don't see them necessarily pushing it back unless they run into some kind of issue with writing. But they have a little over 2 years, which is really all these blockbusters get these days. I think her signing on that line's a good thing. If the rumor is true that she's now officially the highest paid female director of all time, good for her. She made them a heck of a lot of money, and the only well-reviewed movie from DC that's been out lately. And it's the only thing in the slate that actually could be released on time and on budget.
The Flash. Well, no. Aquaman is actually on time currently. I think it's...
Is it?
Yeah, it's slated for July of 2018, and they're almost done with filming. I think they've got a few things, and then knowing DC, they're going to have something leak, and then they're going to have to do some massive reshoots and release just in time.
Oh, of course. Well, they did announce that they were having a lot of trouble shooting in water, which surprised.
Yeah,
and Dolph Lundgren floating through the air in water. I actually really want to see the behind the scenes of that. We got a little tease of that a few weeks ago. I really want to see more.
Yeah, they say if you want to make a movie almost impossible to shoot it on water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they're going to have to do a lot of in-studio stuff and CGI stuff because Aquaman obviously does a lot of stuff underwater. I'm actually excited for Aquaman. I hope it's good. I don't care too much that they're kind of keeping it in the Batman v Superman muted tones kind of thing, but hopefully Joss Whedon's impact on Justice League lets them amp up the saturation a little bit.
Yeah, have you seen any of the video of what Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel color corrected?
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are good.
Yeah, and what shocks me about that, which I love, is that the guy who is doing them, or girl who's doing them,
the person
who's doing them, all they're doing is actually taking the color palette of the actual suits as they're displayed, like in museums or tours, or the behind the scenes photos before they're run through whatever filter that it's
the Snyder filter.
Yeah, before it's run through that, and it looks great. And it looks, it pops. There's vibrancy. There's just something that actually makes it appealing versus blue-ish, gray, orange. James Wan can actually deliver a good Aquaman that is intriguing, because my favorite part of the first trailer we got for Batman vs Superman, not Batman vs Superman, of Justice League, my favorite part is Aquaman landing on the Batmobile and going, yeah. It's just so random. And it's like, oh, wow, somebody's actually having fun with this, who's intrigued and excited about fighting. That's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% down for Jason Momoa's Aquaman just stealing the show. He's gonna. I think he might end up becoming their Iron Man, where everything's just gonna start focusing around him and Diana, because they're just gonna bring life to this dreary world.
Yeah, I'm hoping something good comes of it. And we got Aquaman coming. That's no for sure. Wonder Woman that's good.
I like your bet too. It could bump up to the November date of 2019. Kind of Star Wars will have December, and then DC will have the Thanksgiving Day weekend until Disney comes out with whatever family-friendly movie they're going to release on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, there's enough buffer if they put Bond 25 in early November, which I believe they claimed like November 3rd or something like that. But that'll probably get pushed back because rumor is they don't have a script yet, and they have to try to film around Daniel Craig's schedule, which he likes to put a lot of low budget things here and there. And rumor is that he's supposed to film a mini series for Showtime, but that may get moved back because they have to film Bond, but Bond's script's not ready, so they're going to maybe try to fit that in ahead of time. Who knows? One of them is going to blink. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the mouse is not going to be in.
No, I mean, they've technically already moved the date once. They're not going to move it again. Patty Jenkins, they could probably throw an extra $500,000 at her and say, hey, can you turn this in, say, by October 15th instead of November 1st?
Yep.
So we can get this out by November 11th? Yeah. But, I mean, good for Patty Jenkins. Great for her to hold out and get that great deal. It's going to be a fun 2019. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've got the conclusion to Marvel's first phase of movies, Avengers Infinity War Part 2 or Avengers 4, whatever you want to call it, comes out that year. We also have Captain Marvel coming out earlier that year in March. You've got Spider-Man Homecoming 2, which is not going to be called Homecoming 2. We just don't know what the title is. Coming out in July of that year, which that's supposed to take place moments after the end of Avengers 4.
I think they said literally like 30 seconds.
Yeah, which, like I mean, what's her name in Marvel? Not Marvel, it's Sony. She just needs to shut up.
Amy Pascal.
Amy Pascal, that's right. She just needs to stop talking for like 5 minutes, and she's so excited that she actually has something good, and it's not even something she did. She just gets credit for it because she bartered that deal with Marvel. 2019 is going to be a fun year. Hopefully it's not as disappointing as the summer of, I think it was 2015 when Avengers 2 came out. That was a very disappointing summer. There was a lot of stuff that was supposed to come out that was supposed to be really good.
Was that the Thor 2?
No, that was just before. Thor 2 was just after the first Avengers. It was Thor. It was Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Captain America Winter Soldier, I think. And then Guardians of the Galaxy closed out that year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2019 will be a lot of fun, and it will actually be closing out a lot of nerd storylines too, because the first wave of Avengers movies will be done. So you can probably assume that Robert Downey Jr. will be done. Chris Evans is more than likely walking away. We don't know about Chris Hemsworth. Then you've got Star Wars Episode 9, which is closing that door. But we probably will still have an Obi-Wan movie coming out sometime in 2020.
Bond 25 is supposed to be Daniel Craig's last go with Bond, even though he threatened to quit before. So, yeah, there's been some weirdness going on because right now the distribution rights are up in the air. Sony's had them for like the last 15 years or so, and they're now currently being courted by a bunch of people to get their distribution rights back. Rumor is that Apple and Amazon have recently entered the game to try to get the rights to the Bond from MGM and Eon Productions. Part of that was they wanted Bond to be resecured before those rights were given up.
Yeah.
Wow, we're way off topic.
We're super off topic. But it's fine. It's fun. Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman 2. Go get him, girl.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And probably going to get a Thanksgiving 2019 release date. I think it still might get pushed back to 2020 just because I don't think Marvel has staked out anything in 2020 yet. DC really needs to not rush their movies. If they bump up the timetable, that could impact the quality of the movie as well.
Yeah, certainly.
Here's hoping that DC learns from their mistakes. It seems like James Wan is having a good time, and he seems to be on budget. Maybe he's their Rian Johnson.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Any other little tidbits you want to talk about, Alex?
No, I'm good.
All right. So you can find us on Twitter at Talking Smack Pod. Again, our Talking Smack is SMAC, stands for Superheroes, Movies, Animation, and Comics. So you can find us on Twitter at Talking Smack Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Josh_Scar. Scar spelled SKAAR, like Scar, son of Hulk. Alex doesn't tweet because he's a loser. You can also email us your feedback, your questions at tsmackpod@gmail.com. And we're also on YouTube and Facebook, so please give us a like, share, subscribe. Alex, thanks again for being on the podcast. Obviously, we'll have you back again.
No, it's great. Just enjoy just talking about random stuff like this.
That's pretty much the entire thing. It might as well be random smack. Scotty and I got off so off topic last week too. But it's fun. This is kind of why we're here. We're here to talk nerd shop and put it out there so other people can hear and maybe get involved in the conversation, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, YouTube comments, whatever. Emails. Again, we want to hear from whomever might be listening. I haven't seen any stats on YouTube or iTunes yet. We have some pretty good traffic on Facebook. Again, we would appreciate more feedback, some more conversation. Obviously, by running this podcast, I enjoy talking about this stuff. I could always use a distraction from work. So, we definitely appreciate anyone who's listening. Next week, I'm hoping to do a Kingsman review, but again, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to have the time, but whoever I do the podcast with will hopefully have seen Kingsman as well. Otherwise, it's going to be a very boring review and back and forth. So, Alex, again, thanks for being on here. Everyone, again, thanks for listening. Please give us a like, share, subscribe.
Oh, I know you're about to go to theme music. Is this the piano concerto cover or is this the violin quartet cover?
Oh, it's the dubstep.
Oh, it's the dubstep
specifically requested by Scotty.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so cue that dubstep theme music.